إن الحمد لله تعالى نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله عز وجل. My dear brothers, the reality of Islam is often overshadowed. And as believers, we have to make clarity out of our faith. There are many people across the world. There is a disease that is common across the world. Sadly, this disease also afflicts many Muslims. And this disease is rigidity, intolerance, harshness, rudeness, and a very hardness of heart. And this is exactly the opposite of what Islam teaches. You'll find imams and sheikhs who won't smile, they won't laugh, very serious. And you'll find some of them, they constantly focus on the negativity and they have no optimism. It's always condemnation, judgmental, harsh rhetoric. And the Prophet ﷺ was quite different than that. Today we're going to talk about the concept of rahmah. Rahmah is the core characteristic of Islam. All of the other characteristics should be influenced by the concept of rahmah. You see the word rahmah, if you go into the ancient dictionaries, and you go into the Arabic English dictionaries, you will get meanings like compassion, mercy, love, kindness, gentleness, forgiving, loving. These words are the meaning of rahmah. And we know as Muslims that the most common reference that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes to Himself is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. The source and essence of mercy and compassion, the perfection of kindness and forgiveness and mercy. That's how He is, that's His essence. That's why He begins His revelation. Each chapter is beginning with that, except for one chapter, and that's time will not permit us to discuss why that is. You can ask your scholars. So the Quran in itself is built on this rahmah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said in a hadith Qudsi that He has basically divided His mercy and compassion into 100 parts. And only one part, 1% of His mercy has been brought down here among us. All that you see of mercy, compassion, and gentleness and kindness amongst all of mankind, the animals, and all the blessings that surround us, it is a result of only 1%. Now here's where the hope comes in for all of us. Imagine 99% of His compassion, mercy, and forgiveness has been saved for the day of judgment, in which He will forgive people's piles of sins. Contrary to those khatibs that want to get up and try to make everybody scared that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is out to get them. And then that 99% is also facilitating an eternal bliss in the Jannah, in the paradise that we all have in front of us. One of the hadith Qudsi says that the Prophet ﷺ said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had said, and that it is something that is declared and written in heaven, Inna rahmati ghalabat ghadabi. Indeed, my mercy and compassion is overcoming, and in another narration, superseding, sabaqat, my just retribution or anger and displeasure. In the Quran we know, مَنْ جَاءَ بِحَسَنَةٍ فَلَهُ عَشْرُ أَمْثَالِهَا. Whoever did any good deed, at least they will get 10 times the reward for that. وَمَنْ جَاءَ بِسَيِّئَةٍ فَلَا يُجْزَى إِلَّا مِثْلَهَا وَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ. And whoever did a bad deed, they will never get any worse than one deed counted against them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy, God's mercy and compassion and forgiveness is at least 10 times, brother. Who's talking a khutbah will invalidate it. This is what the Prophet ﷺ taught. This is very, very dangerous. Take the rahmah that's being given to you. The reward that you will get in listening to a sermon is invaluable. So we should pay attention, soak it up, and change accordingly. That's why it's put there every week, so that we can take some soul food and grow and become better people. So we know that the biggest act of mercy and compassion was the sending of the Prophet ﷺ. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. And the only reason that he sent the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was an act of mercy, compassion, and love for all existence. The Prophet ﷺ used to say, أَنَا نَبِيُّ الرَّحْمَةِ, I am the Prophet of mercy and compassion. أَنَا الرَّحْمَةُ الْمُهْدَى, I am the Prophet of mercy in merciful guidance, representing the guidance. So let's take a look at the Prophet ﷺ. Imagine how people's rigidity is in their response to people who make issues about the Prophet ﷺ. And let's look at what is authentically narrated about him. In the Battle of Uhud, when these polytheists have come, and they have started to overcome the believers, and they attack the Prophet ﷺ to break his jaw, cut open his face, break out his teeth, blood is drawn, and the companions are doing whatever they can. Some of them are dying to save him, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, radiyallahu anhum. And so then these people are backed up on a hill, and they called out to him, Ya Rasulullah, ud'u alayhim, call upon your Lord to destroy these people as Noah and Ad, Hud and others did before you. And he says, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ رَحْمَةً وَلَمْ أُبْعَثْ لَعَانًا. I was merely sent as an act of mercy, not to curse people to damnation. Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Imagine yourself in this situation. Somebody's attacking you. So then another narration says that then after that, his dua that he did make was, Allahumma hdi qawmi fa innahum la ya'lamun. Dear God, please guide my people. They don't know what they are doing. This is the heart of rahmah. This is the example of sallallahu alayhi wasallam that we were expected to follow. There was another time in which the Prophet ﷺ is walking around Medina, and he sees a man beating his slave with a whip, and he yells out at him, and the man turns around and he sees the Prophet ﷺ, and he says, Inna Allah aqdaru alayka min hadha al-abd. Indeed, God is more capable of retribution against you than that slave. And so then he said, فَوَاللَّهِ يَا Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, huwa hur. I swear that I am letting him free. He is free now. And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, if you are not true in what you say, you could be swallowed up by the nar because of the evil situation of what you find yourself in. This was the example of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. People are now in the post 9/11 world, they're judging us through the lens of 9/11. And they're saying, oh, this is what the Muslims did. They're terrorists. They go out and kill all of these people ruthlessly. What does Islam say about that? Because Islam and Muslims are two different things. Islam is the divine guidance that was preserved, revealed, and finalized 14 centuries ago. It is بَيْضَاء لَيْلُهَا كَنَهَارِهَا لَا يَزِيغُ عَنْهَا إِلَّا هَالِكٌ. It is a purely illuminated, white, pure teaching. And this is what we should all follow. So the Prophet ﷺ was in the battle of, there was a battle actually. I don't remember exactly which one it was. And so after this battle, he's walking around and he sees a dead woman there. And so he's very angry and saddened in his face, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and he asked them, what is this? Why did you kill this woman? So one of the men said, she was in the battle. And he said, she has no weapon and she does not look like anybody who's fighting a battle. And so He said, from now on you shall never kill a woman or a child. Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And then after him, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu, he took that and went farther with the guidance. And any time he or the true rightly guided leaders after him would be dealing with a war with those enemies that would try to cause harm to the Muslims and disrupt the fair spread of Islam, he said, do not kill a woman, a child, an elderly, a monk. Do not cut down trees. Do not fight with fire. Do not destroy temples. It is a matter of having to fight these people because they have brought a war to us, or they are unjust and they will not allow Islam to their people. This is why the war is being fought between two armies, two warring people, not between the Muslims and the innocent. The Quran says, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. Do not kill yourself. It's very clear. Killing yourself or killing innocent people is clear-cut against Islam by consensus of Muslim scholars. So why do we allow these ignorant, foolish, emotionally politicized people who do crazy stuff? How come they are controlling the discussion? The sad reality is the common Muslim does not seek knowledge, to where if the non-Muslim came and said, yeah, look at what those Muslims did, they don't have these tools to respond to them. And then they look like they're hiding something. Yeah, I knew you guys were, all of the series and programs and movies they've put out that make Muslims look like there's some, evil people. No. Islam is about rahmah, mercy and compassion. That is the nature of God, that is the nature of His Prophet, that is the nature of the Quran, constantly talking about mercy, compassion, forgiveness, and kindness. If somebody fights you in a battle and they bring the word to your doorstep, or you have the ability to stop oppression, then we will fight in a battle against people who are fighting a battle. That's it. This is clear-cut, all there is to do about the subject. So the Prophet ﷺ definitely was against this type of stuff. And Muslims should be very outspoken about it. There was a man named Hisham ibn Hakim ibn Hizam. And one day his son, he was a great companion of the Prophet ﷺ, radiyallahu anhu. One day his son is traveling around in the time of Bani Umayyah, the tribal rule or kingdom that has become of the caliphate very shortly, some 35 years after the Prophet ﷺ. And so he sees there is a whole prison filled with what looks to be like Christians, who are generally citizens of the Islamic State, which allows them that right to be Christian and have their religion and have their temples and worship as they so choose under the Islamic protection. So he asked them, why are you all in jail? Well, the governor raised up the taxes on us and we couldn't pay the taxes, so now they have jailed us. And look at the difference between today's leaders and even those, even though they were a tribal kingdom back then. So he went to the governor and he said, I am Hisham ibn Hakim ibn Hizam, okay? And I'm telling you, I heard my father say about the Prophet ﷺ that he said, Inna Allah sayu'adhibu man yu'adhibu an-nas. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will torture those who torture people and oppress them. Well, you know what this governor did? He feared his creator and he knows he is not having rahmah. And so he asked all of those people not only to be let go, but for their wealth to be given back to them and for their tax to be lowered according to the Islamic law, rather than his own governorship law that he has instituted. You see, if you look, the only time the Prophet ﷺ got upset is because people are not being merciful or compassionate, and this is the way he was. He was angered for the sake of God so that mercy and compassion should reign. That is what he was teaching sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Dear brothers, in the concept of rahmah, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, إنما يرحم الله من عباده الرحماء من لا يرحم لا يرحم. Indeed, the people who will receive the mercy and forgiveness of God are those who have mercy and forgiveness for others. So one time the Prophet ﷺ, he was telling the people about rahmah, and he told them that we should all have rahmah. And then they said, كُلُّنَا رَحِيمٌ يَا رَسُولُ اللَّهِ. We all have mercy in our hearts. He said, إِنَّهُ لَيْسَ بِرَحْمَةِ أَحَدِكُمْ صَاحِبًا وَلَكِنَّهُ رَحْمَةُ النَّاسِ رَحْمَةُ الْعَامَّةِ. It is not that you would have mercy and compassion to your close friends or family. It is that you would have mercy and compassion for everyone. All people, Muslim and non-Muslim. This was the example of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allahumma hdina fi man hadayt, guide us among those who are guided, make us of those, Allahumma inna nas'aluka al-huda wal-tuqa wal-afafa wal-ghina. We ask you your guidance, we ask you chastity, we ask you sufficiency with what you have revealed. Allahumma allimna ilman nafi'an wa jannibna al-jahl. Guide us to knowledge that will help us and benefit us and avert from us ignorance. Allahumma inna nas'aluka an taj'ala minna ummatan qanitan lak rahiman lak. We ask you, O Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to make us a righteous nation that is merciful and compassion, obedient to you and your messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma ajma' qulubana ala ta'atik. Please unify us in your worship and in your guidance, and make us understand and respect each other with the differences that are the beauty and rahmah of your deen, that we were not meant to be robots, we were meant to be part of a rich tradition of scholarship that was many companions, which turned into many followers, which turned into millions and millions of followers and scholars throughout the world. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us to be a unified people with a joined message of compassion and mercy and benefit for those around us. وصلى اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. And may the peace and blessings and mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be on His final messenger. وأقم الصلاة.